Greatness is not built in explosions, it's sculpted in silence. Not with grand gestures, but with quiet rituals. It's not the dramatic moment that changes your life. It's the invisible choices made when no one's watching. That's the power of consistency. Consistency is the slow magic, the unseen engine, the whisper in the dark that keeps showing up even when the world doesn't clap. It's not sexy, it's not loud, it doesn't sparkle, but it builds empires. People want transformation, but they overlook the tool that makes it real: repetition. Repeating what works, repeating what strengthens, repeating what aligns you with who you said you'd be. Not once. Not when it's convenient, but daily. It's brushing your character clean each morning. It's watering the garden of your goals when they still look like dirt. It's being loyal to the process, not to the feeling. And feelings will lie. They will say, take the day off. You've done enough. You're not seeing results. But consistency doesn't speak the language of feelings. It speaks the language of commitment. And commitment doesn't need applause, it only needs a why. Your why is the fire. Consistency is the wood. And the burn, that's your transformation. Most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they lack continuity. They start strong, they spark, but they never sustain. They sprint on Monday and stall by Thursday. But what wins the race? Not the flash, the flow, the rhythm, the non-negotiable momentum of forward motion. Every massive result is just a collection of small steps, repeated with intention. The six-pack didn't come from one workout. The business didn't boom from one idea. The mastery didn't arrive after one try. No, it came from the pattern, from the principle, from the person who said, I will not stop. Because consistency is not about perfection, it's about persistence. It's not about never failing. It's about showing up after you fail. It's about being more loyal to your future than to your fatigue, more faithful to your growth than to your comfort. There will be days when motivation is silent, when progress feels invisible, when results are hiding. That's when most quit. But that's when the consistent rise. That's when they go anyway. That's when they earn what others only dream about. Because success isn't sudden, it's stacked. One disciplined decision on top of another. One focused hour layered upon the next. It's not a lightning bolt, it's a brick wall, laid stone by stone by stone. The strong don't hope for results. They create them through rhythm, through systems, through unwavering standards. They understand that doing it well once isn't the victory, doing it well again and again is. It's the writer who writes when uninspired, the athlete who trains when tired, the entrepreneur who builds through setbacks, not perfectly consistently. The average crave intensity, but the elite, they crave reliability. They don't ask, how can I do more in a day? They ask, how can I do something every day no matter what? That's the shift. That's the weapon. Because when you're consistent, you don't need motivation. You become your own momentum. You build systems that carry you when spirit fades. You become dependable. And there is nothing more dangerous than a person who keeps moving regardless. Consistency is integrity in action. It says, I keep my word to myself. And that self-trust, that's the core of confidence. You don't believe in yourself because of hype. You believe because you witness your own discipline. You watch yourself wake up early. You watch yourself choose growth over excuses. You witness yourself follow through even when no one's keeping score. That's when your identity begins to evolve. You stop saying, I want to be. And you start saying, this is who I am. Because consistency changes your identity. It's not something you do, it's something you become. You become reliable. You become relentless. You become a finisher. And when you become a finisher, the world begins to trust you with more opportunities, more resources, more impact. But it starts with those small, unseen, often thankless steps. The reps you do when it's raining, the choices you make when it's boring, the hours you invest when it's lonely. Success is not loud. It is quiet obedience to the best version of you. over and over and over again. And every time you choose consistency, you take a step away from fantasy and a step toward reality. Because reality favors the consistent. Life bends to those who show up for it. Not once, not when it's easy, not when the mood is right, but every single time. It's the man who wakes before the sun because his dream is louder than sleep. It's the woman who returns to her work, not because it's easy, but because it's hers. It's the person who builds without applause, fights without witnesses, and believes without proof. Consistency is not for the weak, it's for the chosen. And not chosen by fate, but by themselves. They chose to be dependable, they chose to be disciplined. They chose to sacrifice temporary pleasure for permanent power. And you know who they become? Unstoppable. Because there's a storm of power that lives inside the person who keeps promises to themselves. The person who doesn't need to see instant results to stay in motion. The person who understands that every repetition is a brick, and someday the wall will stand so tall, even doubt will be silenced. But that doesn't happen in bursts. It doesn't happen in excitement. It happens in the mundane, in the repetition, in the dull, quiet corners of life where champions are made and pretenders disappear. It's what you do on Tuesday afternoon when no one's watching. It's how you move when no one is checking. It's what you build when no one believes. That is consistency. And it's the most underestimated superpower in the world. People think success is about talent, but talent without consistency is like a ship without sails, beautiful, but going nowhere. Passion without consistency is just a spark, it will fade. But passion with consistency, that's a wildfire that can't be stopped. Consistency is the currency of trust with yourself, with your team, with the world. People don't follow hype. They follow habits. They follow patterns. They follow those who show up with truth in their hands, not trends in their voice. And here's what happens when you become consistent. You become rare. Because very few are willing to repeat what works until it produces what's wanted. Most give up when the newness fades, but not you. You've chosen a different path, the path of the builder, the path of the craftsman, the path of the refiner. You aren't here for flashes of greatness. You're here for durability. And that durability is built every time you choose the work over the excuse, the goal over the gratification, the process over the praise. Eventually, the compound effect takes over. What once felt like small efforts become massive shifts. Because success compounds, integrity compounds, discipline compounds. And one day, it hits not as a surprise, but as a confirmation. You'll look around and realize, this life, this level, this result, it didn't happen suddenly. It happened because I refused to quit. You chose to move when you didn't feel like it. You chose to trust the process even when it was silent. You chose to water your seed every single day, and now it's a forest. That's the power of consistency. Small steps repeated daily turn into results so massive they rewrite your legacy. Because legacy isn't built on a moment, it's built on momentum. And momentum doesn't come from a spark, it comes from the grind, from the repetitions, from the relentless return to purpose. Every master was once a beginner who just didn't stop. Every legend was once ordinary until their consistency made them inevitable. Because the secret isn't hidden in the outcome. The secret is hidden in the pattern. Do the thing, day after day, and watch what happens. Do the work, whether it echoes or not, and eventually it will thunder. You'll become the kind of person who doesn't wait to be inspired because you are the inspiration. Not by what you say, but by what you show. You show up when it's hard. You keep your word when it's costly. You honor your goals when distractions offer comfort. You've made your discipline louder than your doubt. And slowly the world takes notice, not of the effort, but of the effect. Not of your early mornings, but of your results. They won't see the grind. They'll see the glory. But you will know what it cost. You'll know the sacrifice, the loneliness, the stretch, and you'll carry it like armor. Because consistency isn't weakness, it's warfare. It's saying, I refuse to live by how I feel. I live by what I've decided. And that decision, that choice to show up again and again, is what makes you dangerous. To live consistently is to say, my word is law. Not because of pressure, but because of principle. You've raised your standard, and now your actions reflect that elevation. It's in how you eat, how you move, how you speak, how you lead. It's no longer about the goal. It's about the identity that carries the goal forward. And here's the truth most never grasp. Consistency beats intensity every time. It's not about how hard you hit once. It's about how often you return to the ring. You don't need to be the strongest, just the most steady. Because the world doesn't reward potential. It rewards execution. Over time. With effort. Repeated. Honored. Protected. So now, you no longer fear slow progress. You only fear stopping. You no longer crave overnight results. You crave alignment. And that alignment, born from action after action, is what leads you to inevitability. Your goals are no longer questions, they are promises in motion. Your growth is no longer optional, it is scheduled. Your vision is no longer a fantasy, it is a framework. Because you now are consistent. And the consistent, they don't hope for a better life. They build one. One rep, one day, one disciplined step at a time. And in that building, something sacred awakens the quiet pride of self-respect. Not the kind you post. Not the kind that needs applause. The kind that lives in your bones because you know you're becoming someone extraordinary. Not by accident, but by design. Consistency is the builder's prayer. It says, I will lay another brick today. I don't need to see the tower yet. I trust the process. I trust myself. And that trust over time becomes unbreakable. When storms come, you don't panic. You prepare. When distractions call, you don't answer. You remember. When you fall, you rise faster because getting up has become your default. You've programmed your mind to move forward no matter what. And now, nothing stops you. Not fear, not fatigue, not failure. Because this is who you are now. The kind of person who gets it done, who follows through, who keeps building, not until it's easy, but until it's done. And done doesn't mean finished, it means fulfilled. Because the consistent never truly finish, they evolve. They rise into new levels because they become the kind of person who can handle more. More responsibility, more impact, more vision, more legacy. You are no longer building for yourself. You're building for everyone who ever doubted, for everyone who ever said it couldn't be done, for everyone watching you, hoping you rise, because if you can do it, maybe they can too. That's the ripple effect of consistency. It inspires. It ignites. It awakens. Not just in your world, but in others. And that is a responsibility, a gift, a fire you carry now, not with pride, but with purpose. So keep going, even when it's slow, even when it's small, even when it's quiet, because one day it won't be. One day, your results will speak so loud they'll echo through generations. And all you'll have to say is this: I didn't get here by chance. I didn't get here by luck. I got here because I refused to quit. I got here because I showed up every single day. This is the power of consistency. Small steps, massive results. And now, it's yours. And when it's truly yours, not just a practice, but a principle, life begins to move differently around you. Opportunities open not because you shouted the loudest, but because your consistency made you visible to the right people. Respect finds you not because you demanded it, but because your reputation walked into the room before you did. Consistency becomes your signature, your code, your presence. It drips off your words. It echoes in your habits. It breathes in your calendar. You don't talk about doing, you just do. You don't hype results. You let your rhythm speak for you. And now you realize this isn't about success anymore. It's about alignment, about knowing that what you say, what you think, and what you do, they all match. No internal war. No tug of war between ambition and action. Just clarity. Just flow. Just fire. That's the real reward. Because when your mind is aligned with your mission, when your actions reflect your aspirations, there's a peace no paycheck can match, a confidence no trophy can give, a knowing that no matter what happens next, you'll keep going because you've built your life on the one thing that outlasts: talent, trends, and time, discipline, expressed daily. And so you keep laying bricks, even when no one claps, even when the mirror doesn't show the muscles yet, even when the page is blank, the gym is cold, the hours feel endless. You lay the brick. You move the needle. You show up. And you realize something profound. Consistency doesn't just produce results. It produces you. The version of you you always wanted to become. The version of you that doesn't need motivation because movement is already coded into your identity. The version of you that can be trusted with power, with wealth, with impact, because you earned it the hard way. The real way, through consistency, through the small, unshakable, unrelenting steps that no one applauded until everyone noticed. And now the results are massive. But even more massive is the you who made them real. Because the real success story isn't what you built, it's who you became in the process. You became the one who didn't flinch when it got quiet, who didn't shrink when it got heavy, who didn't fold when no one believed. You kept showing up, and in doing so, you grew up. You evolved into someone with gravity, with weight, with presence. People feel it now, in your handshake, in your silence, in the way you enter a room, not loud, but certain, not arrogant, but anchored. They don't need to ask what you do. They sense who you are. And that right there is the product of your consistency. No shortcuts, no gimmicks, just 1,000 days of choosing progress over perfection, of choosing discipline over dopamine, of choosing mission over mood. This is what separates you now. Not the result, not the status, but the spirit behind the work. Because you become a person who finishes what they start. And in a world addicted to novelty, that makes you rare. You don't chase passion anymore, you honor practice. You don't seek motivation, you embody movement. You're no longer driven by fear of failure, you're pulled by the gravity of who you're becoming. And here's what most don't understand. Consistency isn't about doing more. It's about doing less better. It's about narrowing your focus, cutting the noise, sharpening your blade. You don't chase everything, you commit to the essential. And by doing so, you become essential. You've now built a life not of chaos, but of compounding, where each day stacks on the next, where each effort feeds the future, where each choice, no matter how small, carries the full weight of purpose. This is how legacies are made, not in viral moments, but in years of invisible faithfulness. Not in the roar of success, but in the rhythm of small, unbreakable commitments. So when they ask you, how did you do it? You won't give them a secret. You'll give them the truth. I didn't do it all at once. I did it one step at a time, relentlessly, unapologetically, consistently. And that's how small steps create massive results. That's how you go from overlooked to undeniable. That's how you go from ordinary to irreplaceable. That's how you build a life that doesn't just succeed. It echoes. It echoes through the halls of every place you've ever been through, every person you've ever impacted, through every life that watched you rise. Not because you had the most, but because you gave the most day after day after day. Your consistency is your echo. It reverberates into conversations you'll never hear. It shapes reputations in rooms you've never entered. It creates trust where others break it. It sets a bar that most aren't willing to meet, but you did. Not by being extraordinary once, but by being dependable always. That is your power now. You are no longer just a dreamer. You're a builder, a maker, a finisher. You've stepped out of the cycle of starting over and stepped into the current of momentum. Because that's what consistency does. It builds a current that carries you forward, even on the days when your will is weak. You've programmed your life now. You don't need to force effort, it flows. You don't need to chase results, they accumulate. You don't need to fake discipline, you are disciplined. And the world? It begins to follow your pace. The right people align, the right doors open, the right moments appear, not because of luck, but because you stayed long enough to unlock them. You showed up for the breakthrough. You stayed for the mastery. You remained when it would have been easier to run. You committed when it would have been easier to coast. And now you're undeniable. Because this isn't just about achieving a goal. It's about becoming the kind of person who can hold the weight of a dream fulfilled. The kind who doesn't break when success hits. The kind who leads, who lifts others, who walks with wisdom earned in repetition. So breathe this in. Let it sink deep. You did not get here by accident. You did not stumble into strength. You forged it, brick by brick, habit by habit, thought by disciplined thought. You became it because you chose consistency. And that choice, that's the choice that changes everything. It changes how you wake up. It changes how you speak to yourself. It changes what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you're willing to walk away from. Consistency doesn't just shape your results, it shapes your reality. You now move with authority, not because you seek control, but because you've earned command over your habits, over your time, over your mind, over the choices that once ruled you, but now serve you. You've rewired your instincts. You don't look for the easy way anymore, you look for the right way. You don't ask what's fastest, you ask what's lasting. Because you know now fast is fragile, but consistent is forever. You're playing a longer game, a deeper game, one that doesn't burn out with trends or lose power when attention fades. Because you're not powered by public praise, you're powered by personal truth. That truth is what guides you in silence. It's what keeps your hands building when your heart feels tired. It's what reminds you, greatness was never about doing more, it was about doing it again. When the motivation is gone, when the excitement is gone, when the crowd is gone, you still show up. Why? Because your consistency is not a tactic, it's a testament. A daily declaration of who you've chosen to be, not once, but always. That's what makes you powerful now. You are not moved by emotion. You are moved by conviction. You are not trapped by time. You are driven by timeless values. You are not swayed by outcomes. You are anchored in principles. And as those principles compound, the results follow. Not suddenly, but certainly. Success becomes less about arrival and more about alignment. Wealth becomes less about numbers and more about identity. Legacy becomes less about name and more about consistency over time. So remember this. Your small step today is not small. It is sacred. It is shaping the future. It is training your mind. It is reinforcing the truth. You are consistent. And because of that, the result is inevitable. Inevitable. Not because you're lucky, not because the stars aligned, not because someone handed you a map, but because you became the map. You charted your path through discipline. You carved your future with repetition. You turned potential into proof with persistence. You didn't wait for life to hand you a crown, you forged it, link by link, in the fire of daily effort. And now you wear it quietly, not with arrogance, but with the calm presence of someone who has walked through the furnace and came out formed. There is no imposter here. Only proof. Proof that effort compounds. Proof that character scales. Proof that the man or woman who refuses to quit is more powerful than any natural-born genius who never stayed the course. Consistency is your compounding interest in trust, in talent, in transformation. It grows behind the scenes. It multiplies in the background. And one day, it bursts into your life with a force no one can deny. People will call it a breakthrough. but you'll know it was a build-through. Every tiny, patient, unseen act of discipline stacked on the last until the momentum became irreversible. And now, you stand in the echo of all those small steps. You feel the weight of the life you've built, and it's not heavy. It's earned. It fits you because it was tailored, not for who you were, but for who you chose to become. So you keep going. You keep building. You keep aligning your actions with the person you've decided to be, because that decision is the most powerful thing in the world. You made it. You committed. You continued. And now you carry something more valuable than success. You carry certainty. The certainty of a person who knows they will show up, no matter what, no matter when, no matter who's watching, because you are not waiting for the life you want. You are becoming the person who lives it. One small, consistent step at a time. And what a step it is. Each one a declaration. Each one a brick in the unseen cathedral of your life. Not built with noise, not built for approval, but built with intention for impact. Because true consistency doesn't just change your habits. It rewires your destiny. You no longer live at the mercy of circumstance. You create conditions. You don't adapt to chaos, you organize it. You walk into uncertainty, not with fear, but with systems, with order, with the quiet confidence that says, I've done the work. I've built the foundation. I am the storm. You've become the kind of person people look to in moments of doubt, not because you shout, but because you show. You've modeled what it means to endure, to believe, to persist, and now your life is the proof. Not proof of perfection, proof of presence, proof of patience, proof of progress made in private. And if someone asks you how you built it, how you changed, how you broke the cycle, you'll smile, because you'll know it wasn't magic. It wasn't a moment. It wasn't one big move. It was the daily decision to keep going. It was every early morning when quitting felt easier. It was every lonely hour when no one clapped. It was every time you rose, not because you had to, but because that's what consistent people do. That is your story now. That is your superpower. That is your signal to the world that you can be counted on. Not occasionally, not conditionally, but consistently. And that's the kind of power that never fades. That's the kind of power that multiplies, that teaches, that inspires, that transforms. So keep showing up. Keep making the quiet choices that build loud results. Keep doing what others won't until you're living a life others can't. Because the compound effect of your consistency will outlast any shortcut, outshine any luck, and outperform any burst of brilliance. This is your path now. And the world? It doesn't need another spark. It needs a fire that never goes out. And you are that fire not because you burn brightest, but because you burn longest, steady, strong, unshakable. A lighthouse in a storm of inconsistency, a standard in a sea of excuses. And the beautiful thing about fire is this: it spreads. Your consistency, your discipline, your refusal to retreat, it becomes contagious. It becomes permission. It becomes proof to someone else, somewhere, that they can rise to. Not because they're special, but because they're willing. Willing to do the small things. Willing to embrace the boring. Willing to walk forward when no one's cheering. When the results don't show. When every part of them says, not today. Because that's what separates the few from the many, not capacity, but commitment. Not gifts, but grit. Not hype, but habits. And you've chosen habits. You've chosen structure over speed. You've chosen depth over decoration. You've chosen the long road, the one paved with sweat, sacrifice, and certainty. And now the life you're building is no longer a question mark. It's a statement. A statement that says, I will not be moved by the winds of convenience. I am anchored by consistency. You don't skip steps. You don't fake strength. You don't chase shortcuts. Because you've learned the person who skips steps skips becoming. And you're here to become whole, to become disciplined, to become undeniable. And as you walk this path day after day, choice after choice, the destination begins to disappear because you realize this is it. This process, this growth, this rhythm, this grind, this you, this consistent, powerful, evolving version of you, this is the reward. Because success doesn't live in the moment you arrive. It lives in every moment you didn't quit. Every time you rose. Every time you chose purpose over passivity. Every time you did the work when no one saw. You have become the result. And now you carry the truth not just for you, but for everyone who dares to listen. Massive results are built in quiet repetitions. And consistency is where the impossible becomes inevitable. And when the impossible becomes inevitable, when your life is no longer a distant dream but a visible reality, you will understand this at your core. You earned it. You didn't wait for it. You worked for it. You didn't stumble into greatness. You stacked it moment by moment with deliberate discipline. You made your life a monument, not to chance, but to choice. To the thousands of micro decisions nobody saw. To the hours behind the curtain, far from recognition, when you said yes to effort and no to excuses. To the days when you didn't feel like it but did it anyway. Because that's the power of consistency. It's not just about habits. It's not just about routines. It's about identity. It's about the kind of person you become when you refuse to stop showing up. When you choose to live in alignment with your values, not your feelings. When you decide, once and for all, that who you are becoming is more important than how you feel today. That you'd rather be consistent than comfortable. That you'd rather be respected than entertained. And so you keep moving, not with pressure, but with peace. Not in panic, but in purpose. Because now you're not chasing the finish line, you are the standard. And every day you show up is another signal to the universe, to the world, to your own reflection that you are still building, still growing, still becoming. So take this fire and carry it. Let it remind you that your power was never in intensity. It was in your integrity. The integrity to begin and begin again. To start small and stay steady. To trust that your small step today is the foundation of someone else's breakthrough tomorrow. To believe that your consistent voice, your consistent effort, your consistent light is what turns vision into victory. And as you walk forward strong, clear, whole, may every step you take whisper this truth into your soul. I am not here to try. I am here to transform. I am not here to visit greatness. I am here to embody it. One step, one habit, one choice at a time. Because I am consistent. And because I am consistent, massive results are not a matter of if. They're a matter of when.